What is up, everyone? Coffee Break is back with another video. Before we get started here, let's talk about our sponsor, SimBull, the site where you can buy stock of your favorite team just like the stock market. Buy them low, sell them high. Visit SimBull.app, use promo code Coffee Break for a $10 deposit. I already told you, I got my Niner stock ready to roll. I'm ready to roll for this year. Yeah, visit SimBull.app. Link is in the description if you want to check that out. Also, we have a very special episode with a special guest, Leo Luna. If you don't know who he is, I'm going to link his YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff in the description below. I advise you to go check him out. He has some really good stuff, breaks some really good news on the Niners. So leading up to the draft, Leo is one of the top guys I follow for, news and updates and all that good stuff. Also, if you haven't subscribed to Coffee Break, please go ahead, come on board. The party's just getting started as we lead up to the draft and talk all about the Niners all day long. Anyways, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Enjoy the show. What's good, Leo?
What's good, man? How you been?
I'm good. Thank you for, taking the time.
Yeah, of course, man.
What you been up to?
Nothing, just trying to figure out some stuff with this site. Got off a meeting for like a syndication. They like
Just working.
yeah, just working basically.
Yeah, I feel it. Are you from San Diego?
Yeah, I live here in San Diego. Both my parents are born and raised in the Bay Area.
Oh, nice. So you were born out there?
No, I was actually born in just like a like a random spot, which was El Paso. So my
Okay.
parents they were both in the city, so they both met in the Mission District, and for whatever reason, my grandpa moved to El Paso, but he was decapitated, like his knees. He's like on a wheelchair and stuff like that. He needed my dad's help, so they moved out to El Paso for a little bit, and I ended up being born there. On the way back to San Francisco, my parents stopped at my aunt's house. My aunt was like, "Don't go back to the city. I got my two kids here. Like, let's grow our kids up together. City's like too fast. City, like you guys got ties in the city to where you don't want your kids to be running into those same ties." So my
Mm,
parents were like, "Damn, you're right. The weather's nice. Let's just stay here."
yeah. I'm sure you love it out there.
Oh man, like honestly, I would only move out of San Diego if I could live directly in the city, which seems damn near impossible at this moment, considering
Yeah,
the cost of living.
right.
So that's the only way I would move out of San Diego because I'm not gonna like I got a family all out in East Bay now. I got a bunch in East Bay. My cousin just bought a house in Antioch. And I don't know if I could do that traffic like in the East Bay and all that. It's wild. San Diego, I could go anywhere on the weekend or anywhere after 6 without having bumper to bumper.
Yeah, it's a little crazy out here. I live in the East Bay too. I was born in the city. And then at about the age 6, I moved out to the East Bay, but always rocking that red and gold since day one. So
Always
yeah,
tell people like, yeah, I was born into it. I never like got to choose my team. It was kind of just
yeah, you
something
just
I was born like my grandparents were season ticket holders. My dad went to a bunch of games, and so it's like, wow, I was born it. Like my parents, they were not about to give me an option to choose a team.
yeah. You're kind of just born with it. So
Yeah.
that's cool, man. Well, I wanted to bring you on just to talk some Niners off season.
Hmm.
And so just looking at what the Niners have done in terms of who they brought back, it's been a very busy off season for John Lynch. I'm calling it his best off season work yet. Um, what
Right.
are your thoughts, your overall, like, I guess, grade in terms of the off season right now?
So this is actually a tweet I saw from Vish Kumaran. And he has like his own platform on YouTube.
Smart guy.
It's yeah, what he basically said is I'm never really a fan of running it back, but considering the talent that the 49ers ran it back with was like the top of the market, It was a fantastic job, and I wanted to echo that because it is so true. When
Yeah.
you have middle tier guys and you want to just run it back with those middle tier guys, it's kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But the guys that they're running it back with, Trent Williams, it's I find it comical because I saw a little trend after he got the deal. There were some outlets saying, "Oh my God, they overpay this guy. He's never been an All Pro." Like, let's stop. He's the best left tackle in the game, especially. You're not spending that 12th overall pick on a tackle now because if he walked, that's something you were doing. But now you could honestly take best available at that 12 spot. And also,
Yeah.
it's whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo or someone else at quarterback, he's gonna help them out so much. He was like the highest graded PFF left tackle in all of football last year. While they not may not be the end all be all, that aligns with what I saw with my eyes. I would
Yeah.
like to see more chemistry between him and Lincoln, but I do think Alex Smack is going to help that out a little more, being on the right side of Lincoln. Maybe if he sees something extra compared to uh, Grasu being there at center.
Right.
Um, the Tart one, he doesn't really get the notoriety that he deserves. Uh, to where Fred Warner's mentioned it in a press conference. That interception he got against the New York Giants when he was covering Evan Ingram.
Oh yeah,
That
he called it
Tart
out,
saw
huh?
something pre-snap, so
Right.
Tart told Fred Warner. Fred Warner reacted based on what Tart told him. Got an interception out of the play, and then even in 2019, Tart saw something pre-snap, told Akello Witherspoon. This was week 2 in Cincinnati. Akello Witherspoon listened to what Tart said. He jumped the comeback route, but dropped a potential pick six on that play.
Yeah.
So his stats may not show 5 interceptions on a season or making all these turnovers, but I don't think it should go understated from what he does from a vocal aspect. Someone who understands the football game with his high IQ level, because we saw when I like Tarvarius more. I think the kid has potential. He has 4.3 speed, but he continues to be out of position.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his passer rating against was in the 130s last year, compared to Tart is somewhere around in the 80s. So you got a 50 spot difference. And I don't think that should go untalked about. Jason
Yeah.
Verrett. A lot of people say 1 year wonder. Well, he was doing what he did last year in the Chargers when healthy. That was the big thing there, when healthy. And the guy shows that he's healthy. So I think he's going to continue to do those special things. Obviously, you can never plan for injuries, but his cost was very, very low. It's the 49ers aren't married or handcuffed to too much of that deal. It's only a 1 year deal. So the guy has to continue to stay motivated. It's not like he got the bag and he's set for the rest of his career.
Right.
Um, I'm someone that's high on Emmanuel Mosley. Um, Kyle Juszczyk, you never know. Like they say, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Yeah, you could say, oh, Josh Hockett, they have him on the practice squad. Let's put him in. Well, what if he starts missing assignments and going for the wrong guy in a zone blocking running scheme? With Kyle Juszczyk, you could kind of just cross that out and you don't have to worry about that anymore. And you're not handcuffed to too much guarantees in that contract. So
Yeah.
I would give this off season probably like a B plus until I could figure out what they do at QB2. Then I could bump that up into an A, because the only hole they really have now is who plays wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
And you could talk about a potential upgrade at right guard if you want. There's a ton of guards in this year's draft. Like you can find day one starters in round 4 or round 5. So like there's no glaring need at this moment. So that's why I'm going to go B plus until we find out what's going to happen with QB2, which is pretty unfortunate. Having a discussion around QB2 when you have a $27 million QB1.
I know. Yeah. And that's what makes this pretty exciting, like looking it forward into the draft, because they can literally go best player available. There's no, like you said, there's not really a pressing need at any position. Some can argue corner, like you said, interior offensive line, maybe you want to add more depth there. And then John Lynch always throws you that defensive line special every like
Yep.
first round every other year. So yeah, I mean, one thing you did point out is the Niners are now focused on getting these high IQ guys, like maybe more so this time around than previous years. Because if you look at, previous years, the D Ford situation, the Weston Richburg, they handed out those big contracts, and I get it at the time, and that perception at that moment was like, we got cap space, we gotta spend some money to get these guys, and they had some picks to give away for D Ford for the trade for D Ford. But it seems like this time around, they're really focused on one, knowing the system, like they're basically reloading, and then two, and they always go after guys who played for Shanahan. Like, I think they value that very much. And then two, just like you said, knowing where you got to be on that field. Alex Mack, I think it's very underestimated how important he's going to be to this offensive line. And we talk about Trent Williams. Just imagine the Niners not signing Trent Williams. He goes to the Chiefs. Now we're sitting here talking about who we're drafting at 12 at left tackle, or how can we trade up to get a top left tackle, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and with Alex Mack, why I love that so much, it's how I see the center. It's the quarterback of the offensive line, to where they
Yeah.
know what kind of like stunts to expect in certain scenarios, what kind of fronts they're facing, what kind of exotic looks, and how to react to those exotic looks. It's that communication is huge, and we saw last season sometimes. I'm not going to say certain players, but sometimes you saw members of the offensive line standing there blocking no one while someone got a free shot at Jimmy Garoppolo,
Communication
Nick
issues.
Mullen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the communication issues were really, really bad. And I think Alex Mack can shore that up. But while he does that, he's able to, put someone under his wing and teach up a potential center or guard that they draft, or talk to if Daniel Brunskill is the guy at right guard, help out Daniel Brunskill to understand these packages, because Brunskill is a guy who transitioned from tight end, and he's played tackle, he's played guard, he's played center last year. So if he could help out the eyes match the brain, I think that can go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited. I mean, I tweeted this out when they picked both those guys up. This offensive line went from like ass to straight gas now. Now we're cooking with fire a little bit. So,
Yeah.
we'll see. And they still have a year with Mike McGlinchey to see what they want to do with him afterwards.
Hmm.
So they're in a really good spot. When we talk about this draft coming up, I'm conflicted between quarterback, cornerback. Um, I really love Mac Jones from Alabama. I think if he's there at 12, I think the Niners should just draft him. What are your thoughts early on here on what player the 49ers can really target here?
If Mac Jones is sitting there at 12, I would be an advocate that they should draft Mac Jones at 12. I think you could, a lot of people make the case that, oh, look at the talent he's had at wide receiver, um, Najee Harris at running back. But if you just look at some of those throws and some of those windows and hitting his receivers in stride, he did that pretty often. It's not like those receivers had to work for a reception.
Yeah.
Mac Jones just put it in the basket.
And let's
And
not forget too, Tua had the same talent around him. Like,
he did.
and they weren't able to get that national championship his last year there, but it looked much more, they executed that offense much easier with Mac Jones. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and Tua wasn't able to get the national championship against Trevor Lawrence either. So that 2 years in a row where Tua didn't get the job done. And with with Mac Jones, it's okay, we can make the talk about the receivers he had there. Well, 49ers have some pretty good ones with Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle at tight end, not to mention Kyle Shanahan calling plays. And so that's why I say, it's if he's there, you take him, because to me he's Kirk Cousin with upside. Upside as far as being in the locker room where players aren't saying, "Man, this my quarterback is trash," like they've
Yeah.
said in Minnesota ever since Griffin. And so that's where he has some like mobility. He's not a guy that's gonna burn anyone or run out of the pocket and gain 20 yards in a flash.
Right.
His 40 time is near the Kirk Cousins range, near the Patrick Mahomes range. So if you think about it, the guy can run a little bit, but he does show awareness really well within the pocket. He's able to move the pocket without having to burst outside, sprint out to the right or sprint out to the left. He's able to move the pocket just by taking a couple steps forward, taking a couple steps left, to the right, and also you don't know when you're going to be in that position to get that prospect quarterback,
Yeah.
to the caliber of Mac Jones. Because looking at this roster now, they could win a lot of football games. They could see themselves moving on in the playoffs. They could potentially see themselves in the Super Bowl because the roster is this talented. That's obviously bearing if Jimmy Garoppolo stays healthy. While I like Jimmy Garoppolo, I do believe in his limitations, and I do believe his contract is up in 2 years. How much is he going to take in 2 years? So, are you willing to re up Jimmy Garoppolo in 2 years, knowing that Fred Warner, his extension is going to be on the books by then? Nick Bosa is going to be wanting a contract extension by then. Trent Williams is costing more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eric Armstead's costing more. George Kittle's costing more. So there's no guarantee that next year or the year after you get a prospect caliber Mac Jones is without having to move a bunch of draft capital around. So that's why I say if he's there at 12, you just got to take it just based on pure prospect and what he could do for your team. Maybe not this coming season, but maybe he could do something in 2022.
Yeah. I mean, the Niners, if the reports early on were true about, them trying to trade for Stafford and whatnot, the Niners kind of showed their hand what the future holds for Jimmy, right?
Right, right.
I would
Yeah,
think it'd be
I
criminal that they like not draft the quarterback this year.
No, and especially when you see a lot of beat writers, and I say beat writers because if they say something out of pocket, they're going to get hit up immediately by 49ers PR. And they've been signaling, like, hey, quarterback round one, quarterback, like rookie quarterback. So if literally all the beat writers align that way, that just kind of shows a message to where they're safe to talk about it and they're not going to get any backlash from the 49ers to where, yeah, there's definitely truth back there and they're not spilling anything that the 49ers don't want out there.
So you think the Niners kind of control the narrative in that regard? Like, you think they tell beat writers not to like
Oh,
spill any
absolutely.
information?
I know from firsthand experience.
Oh,
Absolutely.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They
Yeah, I'm
try
not
to
too.
manipulate it as best as they can.
That's crazy. Why would they want to do that though? To protect the player?
Protect the player, protect, not try to lose any leverage or try not to show a
Mm,
hand. Because at the end of the game, it's basically the game behind the game. So if
that's
you have
true.
people close to the team, like showing the 49ers hand, then they're gonna say, hey, like,
Lay off.
yeah, yeah, like, hey, we like stop. We didn't call Teddy Bridgewater.
Right. Yeah, that and then it like, oh, the Niners called for Teddy. And when that report came out, I was just like, maybe they just want to know what the Panthers plan is into the
Hmm.
draft. Because if they're willing to ship Teddy, then yeah, that shows their hand that they're gonna draft the quarterback, at 7 or whatever
Hmm.
they're drafting. So I found it weird that this offseason there was a lot of like conflicting reports, and maybe it has to go into like the what you were saying. It's like the game within the game in the
Yep.
off season, and there's just like so much to handle as
Yeah,
a fan.
and
Yeah,
it's like even Sam Darnold's name has been brought up. Carson Wentz's name has been brought up. Every year they've met with the media before the combine, and the 49ers declined it this year because they know what questions are coming. That's Cal
yeah,
Shanahan and John Lynch. Um, so it's kind of the writings on the wall, but I do from this is what I've heard. From a source, it's just that the 49ers do not want to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo before the draft. And a lot of that has to relate to, are they able to trade up? And if they are, who's on the board, or if they can't trade up, who's on the board at 12. So if you ship Jimmy Garoppolo off before the NFL draft, you could be screwed with Josh Rosen at quarterback.
Yeah.
So, or Kellen Mond at quarterback, which would
And
be
then all
awful.
this, all this, like all these pieces you've added, just like not go to waste, but pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then they're definitely planning something, but it's the chips got to fall their way. If Mac Jones isn't there at 12, they're going to hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo. If Trey Lance isn't there at 12, which he's probably not going to be, Justin Fields probably not going to be, then they're going to hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just they're in this more of the middle range spot to where they can't move the guy now without understanding where they're going to go in the draft. If they had the number 2 pick, they could move on from the guy now, but they don't
Yeah.
have that, so they have to stick with him until they know exactly how the chips fall.
It's yeah, I totally understand. And you know, teams do this all the time. They wait until the draft because
Hmm.
you know, you always go off of impulse. You know, a lot of teams just like desperate at the time, and you're like,
Hmm.
you know, you get a
Yeah.
desperate team, you can make a trade. So you're saying there's still a possibility that Jimmy gets moved here, in like during the draft or maybe afterwards. Like I guess nothing is set in stone, obviously, but
No.
especially with Jimmy. And you know, I was looking at the draft order. I think the Niners, if they really wanted to get one of those top guys at quarterback, it would be smart to move up like the Lions spot, because now you're moving up ahead of Denver and Carolina, who are two teams that probably are looking for quarterback. So um, that's a possibility. And then you always have, I don't know how much it would be to move up to two, you know, to trade with the Jets and Salah, but
Hmm.
I guess, you know, they have some sort of relationship there.
Yeah. And it's also if they move up with the Lions, like yeah, you mentioned that would be a great spot, but who's on the board by the time that pick comes? Are the other quarterbacks off and it's just Mac Jones who's on the board? Do they value trading up for Mac Jones, or do they feel comfortable with taking him at pick 12? So there's just that player evaluation. How much do they value a player to go ahead and make that move depending on who's still on the board?
Yeah, I agree there. Um, I want to touch on Trey Lance. Do you like Trey Lance? Are you a fan of him?
Um, I'm so so. I'm so so. I like the thought of what he can be, but I do believe there is a lot of chance. I think he
Yeah.
can develop into a Josh Allen like player, maybe the 4th year in his NFL, to where he's hitting downfield throws, he's able to be accurate on the run. Um, I do see some things that concern me is kind of inconsistencies from simple passes. Like one that stands out to me, I can't remember if it was the single game he had this year or if it was the previous game last. I feel like it was the single game he had this year. He had a receiver, an outside receiver, just running a simple 10-yard comeback route, and he sails the ball like
Else,
10
yeah.
yards over his head. And there's other circumstances, not just that single one. So like I do have my concerns with Trey Lance, but to where I would feel confident in the 49ers offense, it's a lot of it has to do with Kyle Shanahan providing these quarterbacks with good looks. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's a good quarterback. He had a 27 touchdown and 13 interception game. And I think Trey Lance would be a closer to a Jimmy Garoppolo type producer than he would be a Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard. So I think he can have success in the NFL, but I don't think he's as sure as a lock as, say, a Mac Jones would be.
Yeah. Early on, I was really high on him, but you know, the more you watch tape, the more you see his inconsistencies, like you said. And yeah, I'd be really uncomfortable for the Niners taking him like in the first round. Um,
Yeah, like
same,
you
yeah.
saw like sometimes where he would bust open a big run while it looks nice, but then
Hmm.
if you evaluate what his job is as a quarterback, he has like two guys running butt naked downfield, and he decides to run and take like a couple of hits when he could have just threw it to the I think it was like a tight end multiple times, and the tight end could have walked into the end zone. Instead, your quarterback is taking a couple of hits, and while the play looks good,
Yeah,
you would prefer your quarterback to just hit that wide open tight end for a touchdown.
that's true. And that kind of leads me to also Justin Fields. I'm not really that high on Fields. I think he's more accurate than Trey Lance, but in some of his film, I see him like delivering the football a tad late. And in the NFL, that's night and day from like a completion to interception. He's also like ball security, constantly giving the ball away to the other team and just making some really boneheaded plays at times. Makes me hesitant to like say for sure, oh, Niners should get him at 12 or get him in the first round. I wouldn't be comfortable with that at all. Like honestly, if the top three guys are off the board at quarterback, I think the Niners can get a similar value in the second round. What do you say about that?
Um, I see the inconsistencies with Justin Fields. I know it's a lot of it is asking the receivers to do a little more extra from Ohio State. Um, I think he could be really good in a Shanahan offense. I would say I have Justin Fields as like my third quarterback, paired in with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. Shanahan has worked with him, may have been shorts and a t-shirt, but Shanahan knows his physical abilities. So if Kyle Shanahan is willing to take this guy, I'm going to trust his evaluation because he spent a couple years with him, training with him. And that's where I ask myself, like, what's Shanahan's like end game with training high school kids, and an NFL coach is spending his time to train high school kids. Um, but I like their offense to me is just a little tough to value Justin Fields. It's same thing with Mills from Stanford. Stanford's offense is a lot of just a vertical game. Let's run some posts. It's not really having to do any type of processing or anything like that. You're just able to predetermine your target based on how the defense lines up, and it's all vertical. It's like I want to see how Mills gets with guys running across the field or just different type of more NFL routes than just let's run four verts. So that's
Yeah.
what makes it hard for me to value Davis Mills. But um if they're not taking quarterback in the first round, it's really a cold take by me. But if they're not taking a quarterback in the first round, I would rather give up a day 3 pick for Gardner Minshew.
Are you saying you're not a fan of Kellen Mond, Leo?
I'm not a fan of Kellen Mond. It's just
Yeah.
with Texas A&M, I see a lot of pre-snap destinations on what he's going to do with the ball, and then sometimes he'll even force it to those pre-reads. So that's my concerns with Kellen Mond. He has a lot of grooming to do, and I feel like if they take a quarterback that early, he's got to be ready to go in if Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, because that's the whole
Yeah.
reason why they will take a quarterback this early. Because we can say what it is. It's Jimmy Garoppolo's injury history, because they're able to work around his play to where everything's all short and middle. That's why they could win a lot of football games that way. That's fine. We wouldn't be having this discussion if he played 16 games last year. I'm sure of it. But
Yeah.
since it is quite a bit of a concern, that's why we have this discussion. So I don't trust Kellen Mond to go out there for 3 games next year. If need
No.
be, I would rather ship a day 3 pick for 3 games of Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. Um, look, I love Mac Jones, and if he's taken off at 12, let's assume no trades. I have to look hard at the corner out of South Carolina, J.C. Horn, just because I know he would contribute to this defense, and we don't know what kind of defense this is going to be with the young defensive coordinator, of course.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that. And to add to that, I think John Lynch has done a really good job, at least trying to bring those old guys back into this locker room to help the young defensive
Hmm.
coordinator. But do you like JC Horn?
I do like JC Horn. I think he ran his 40 recently.
That's right.
Wasn't he sub 4.4?
Yeah,
I believe he was sub four
he's
four.
up
So
there.
yeah, I like JC Horn a lot. I like how that he's physical um at the line of scrimmage. And I don't write it off the board, a cornerback at pick 12. I don't, because if you, like we said, Jason Verrett's a 1 year deal. Emmanuel Mosley, that could be looked at as a 1 year deal, and Kwan Williams, that is a 1 year deal. So they're going to be in the same boat next season, to where it's, oh my God, our whole secondary's free agents once again.
Yeah,
I would not write that off the board at pick 12. I do like JC Horn. It depends. Someone else I like is Caleb Farley. It's how far does he fall in the draft? And are you able to, I know you said no trades. Are you able to trade back a little bit and get a prospect like Caleb Farley? Um, but yeah, I would be good with Horn. I like JC Horn. I think he provides that toughness to go against receivers like Hopkins and DK Metcalf, and not get bullied by those bigger bodies.
yeah. 4.39 was his 40. Um, the guy like versatile, right? You could play him
Hmm.
as a nickel. He can even play like strong safety if you really
Right.
wanted to put him in that spot. And then play him outside, of course, line him up against the tight end or, like you said, Hopkins, DK. So that's really why I love the value there at 12. But we'll see. I guess this is where it gets fun. For John Lynch, he has decisions to make, and I'm sure calls are going to be coming his way. One thing that I was thinking about was, man, the Patriots may want to move up to 12. If one of their guys is like, because they need a quarterback more than the Niners, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they have a guy there, John Lynch may get a call from Bill Belichick to move up. And so that's always a possibility. And they've made trades before, so I couldn't put it past them. But it's going to be exciting. And just one thing about one of the players that's currently in the roster, Fred Warner, because his extension is still looming, and people are wondering, like, is it going to get done, or are they going to go in knowing, kind of like Trent Williams, knowing that he's going to be a free agent at the end of the
Hmm.
year? Maybe they say something like, "Hey, we'll help you out once we get more cap space." But if you had to put an odds to it, for him getting an extension before the start of the year, what are the odds of that happening?
I would say it's above 50. It's above 50%. I would say there's probably a 70% chance that it gets done, because how I look at it is, one, that's John Lynch and Shanahan's guy. Like, they took him out of the draft, and Shanahan's been vocal about him. He loves him.
Yeah,
And two, they basically invested in Fred Warner when they made D'Amico Ryans the defensive coordinator. If they were
that's true.
looking to move on from Fred Warner, or include him in some type of package in a trade, they wouldn't have invested with the coach that's literally been there with Fred's entire career, literally his position coach.
Right.
So by having D'Amico Ryans with that promotion, it just signals we're keeping Fred around. This is our guy, and our defensive coordinator knows him well, to where we create potentially more exotic looks out of our defense, because he knows what Fred Warner could handle.
Yeah, I think that it'll be criminal for them to just a let him be a free agent next year, or what fans are, they're kind of traumatized. I'm gonna tell you, Leo, because last year we thought the same thing with DeForest Buckner, and we all know what happened. So,
Right.
I have people in the comments like, what's going on with Fred Warner? Well, I can understand that, and to me, I think it has to get done. You learn from your mistakes. I feel like if we would rewind back to last year, John Lynch would handle that differently, wouldn't you say?
Potentially, I think they like what they got in the draft out of Kinlaw. Um, Personally, I would, I would have wanted to keep DeForest Buckner around as long as possible. But where I'll differentiate the two is that Fred Warner's playing a vital position, being the quarterback of the defense. At that middle linebacker spot, his coverage skills as a middle linebacker, like you can't even
Yeah,
compare it really to anyone else in the NFL. The only other guy who played that high of a level was Levante David, and he showcased that in the Super Bowl. Um, but he's not a guy that's easy to replace. Neither is DeForest Buckner. But I just think that they value the position differently from a middle
mm,
linebacker to a three tech.
yeah, I can see that, and it's a more of a plug and play type of position, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because of if what made DeForest Buckner special is to create those pressures while getting double teamed.
Yeah,
That's where we saw a dip in Eric Armstead's play this year. That's why we didn't see Javon Kinlaw as effective rushing the passer because DeForest Buckner is special at doing that. But ideally you have Nick Bosa on one side, you have Eric Armstead who could, if one on one, he could win. You would hope to have another edge rusher, maybe D Ford, maybe it's Samson Ebukon this year, compared to a a three tech that's in there. Like I love Buckner. I'm not trying to diminish his play at all. I think he is a fantastic player, but I just think you look at positional value and it's okay, middle linebacker, corners, edge rushers, like safeties, and then maybe a three tech you name like fourth or fifth on the list of uh like just high value positions
yeah,
compared to middle linebackers one or two.
yeah, for sure. Again, I think it'll be criminal to see him go like that, but I'm
Oh my
sure. I'm
god.
sure.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that would be like writing on the wall. John Lynch is gone if Fred
hmm
Warner gets shipped out, or they just don't extend him.
Yeah, it would be awful. Especially being in here in San Diego myself. Fred Warner being from San Diego,
Oh man,
his high school knocked out my high school in the playoffs. So I have a little bit of ties with Fred Warner myself. So it would be absolutely awful. And then it's like, who do you ask to play that position? Dre Greenlaw is known to not be as nowhere near the same stratosphere as Fred Warner as a coverage
right?
linebacker. They don't; those type of linebackers don't grow on trees. So it would
No,
be absolutely criminal, and I think it would diminish the defense more than anyone would expect it to.
yeah, that's another area too where they're probably gonna get a little bit more depth at that.
hmm
Draft another linebacker here. Um, just to go along because we just don't know with all these
Yeah,
injuries that always happen. Jeez.
yeah, it's so unfortunate.
Well, you know what? I appreciate your time, Leo. I'm gonna link your YouTube and your website in my description below. So this was fun, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Anytime, just let me know.
Yeah, appreciate you. I guess shit. Can I have you on like maybe right before and after the draft?
Yeah, that'll be straight.
Yeah, I just let you know so I can fit you in.
Yeah, that'll be straight.
Cool, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate your time.
Have a good one.
You too. I'll talk to you.
Peace.